This week, in a move that shocked Washington, a Republican-led committee took a bipartisan vote to subpoena a sitting Republican attorney general. The target, Pam Bondi. The reason? Files related to Jeffrey Epstein. Files that lawmakers say are being hidden, withheld, or deliberately kept from the American public. And what's in those files? According to reports, allegations that directly involve the President of the United States. Let's break down what just happened, what's been hidden, and what happens next. On March 4th, 2026, the Republican-led House Oversight Committee voted to subpoena Attorney General Pam Bondi for testimony about her role in the release of Jeffrey Epstein files. The motion, introduced by Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace, passed by a vote of 24-19. Mace was joined by Democrats and fellow Republicans Tim Burchett, Michael Cloud, Lauren Boebert, and Scott Perry. This was not a partisan political attack. In a rare bipartisan rebuke, the motion passed with 5 Republicans joining Democrats in supporting the subpoena. The move amounted to a sharp rebuke of Bondi by Republicans who've been clamoring for information about Epstein's abuse of young girls and his interactions with rich and powerful people. This was members of the president's own party voting to compel his attorney general to testify under subpoena. And the question on everyone's mind is simple. Why? To understand why this matters, we need to go back. Jeffrey Epstein was a convicted sex offender and financier who cultivated connections with some of the most powerful people in the world. He was arrested on federal sex trafficking charges in July 2019 and died in a New York federal jail a month later. His death was ruled a suicide, but the case itself never went to trial. His accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, was later convicted of sex trafficking and is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence. For years, survivors and advocates demanded transparency. They wanted to know who else was involved, who knew what, and what exactly the federal government had in its files. Then, in late 2025, Congress acted. The Epstein Files Transparency Act was passed with bipartisan support and signed by President Trump in November 2025. The law required all of the material to be released by December 19th, 2025. But that's not what happened. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle called for Bondi's testimony after the Department of Justice missed the deadline to release the Epstein files by 42 days. The DOJ stated in January that it had released about half of the roughly 6 million Epstein documents, including 3 million pages, 180,000 images, and 2,000 videos related to the convicted sex offender. But committee investigators estimate that total accounts for only half of the files in the department's custody. That's already a problem, but it got worse. Democratic lawmakers accused Bondi of orchestrating a, quote, cover-up that shielded people whose names appeared in the millions of pages of material while failing to redact the names of survivors of Epstein's abuse. There has also been bipartisan consternation that the documents that were ultimately released did not protect each survivor's identity, and that DOJ released sensitive photographs in violation of the Epstein Transparency Act. So let's be clear about what critics are alleging here. The Department of Justice redacted the names of several people who are not survivors, incensing not only members of Congress, but also survivors of Epstein's crimes who charge that the administration is engaged in a cover-up. Powerful names were protected. Victims were exposed. That contrast, protecting the powerful while failing to protect the vulnerable, is at the heart of this scandal. Then came the revelation that changed everything. According to an NPR investigation, the public database of Epstein files is missing dozens of pages related to sexual abuse accusations against President Trump. The Justice Department has withheld some Epstein files related to allegations that President Trump sexually abused a minor. Representative Robert Garcia, the ranking Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, stated that oversight Democrats confirmed the DOJ appears to have illegally withheld FBI interviews with a survivor who accused President Trump of heinous crimes. According to reports, the FBI interviewed the Trump and Epstein accuser 4 times. But only the FBI's summary of the interview from July 24, 2019 was included in the Epstein Files released by the Justice Department. 3 additional interviews gone. The move to demand Bondi's testimony came a week after the Justice Department said it was looking into whether it had improperly withheld documents. That announcement followed news reports saying a massive tranche of records did not include several summaries of interviews that the FBI conducted with an unidentified woman who came forward after Epstein's 2019 arrest and claimed to have been sexually assaulted by both Trump and Epstein when she was a minor in the 1980s. It's important to note the new files do not shed any more light on how credible federal investigators viewed these claims or how they were resolved. Trump has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing related to Epstein. But lawmakers weren't just upset about the substance of the allegations. They were furious about the process. The law mandating the release of the Epstein files prohibits withholding documents on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity, including to any government official, public figure, or foreign dignitary. In other words, if documents were withheld to protect the president from political embarrassment, that would be illegal. After the public outcry, the Justice Department acted. The Justice Department published additional Epstein files related to allegations that President Trump sexually abused a minor, after the NPR investigation found dozens of pages were withheld. The agency said the records, which include allegations made against President Donald Trump in 2019, were not previously released because they were incorrectly coded. After this was brought to our attention, we reviewed the entire batch with the similar coding and discovered 15 documents were incorrectly coded as duplicative, the department said. The explanation was essentially this: it was an administrative error, not a cover-up. But that explanation didn't satisfy lawmakers on either side. Representative Nancy Mace posted on X, 3 million documents have been released, and we still don't have the full truth. Videos are missing, audio is missing, logs are missing. Mace also wrote on X, AG Bondi claims the DOJ has released all of the Epstein files. The record is clear, they have not. She went further. The Epstein case is one of the greatest cover-ups in American history. That's a Republican lawmaker calling this one of the greatest cover-ups in American history. So let's return to that vote on March 4th. After the vote, Mace told reporters, I know that Bondi has testified before the Judiciary Committee, but she's not testified before me or the Oversight Committee. I need to get to the bottom of this for other survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. Mace said the subpoena is for closed-door testimony with video that would be released to the public afterward. Before the vote, Oversight Chairman James Comer informed the committee that Bondi had agreed to give members a private briefing on the status of the Epstein documents. That offer was not enough to satisfy the coalition of lawmakers who supported the motion to subpoena Bondi. California Democrat Representative Ro Khanna, co-sponsor of the Epstein Transparency Act, commended Mace and emphasized the bipartisan nature of the motion. It's about transparency. It has nothing to do with being a Democrat or a Republican. It's about going after predators and people who are sexually harassing, Khanna said. But for some lawmakers, a subpoena isn't enough. Representative Shri Tanadar, a Democrat from Michigan, filed articles of impeachment against Attorney General Pam Bondi. Tanadar introduced 3 articles of impeachment charging Bondi with obstruction of Congress, dereliction of duty, and obstruction of justice, and weaponizing and politicizing the DOJ. Tanadar's charges include engaging in a conspiracy to cover up the Epstein files and a child trafficking ring, and disregarding a law passed by Congress ordering the full release of the Epstein files. Tanadar said that Bondi is illegally withholding millions of Epstein files and added, her conduct is a spit in the face to survivors everywhere, and we cannot allow it to continue. However, neither of these efforts has gained much traction with Democrats, let alone the Republicans who control the House. The impeachment effort is largely symbolic. With Republicans holding a majority in both the House and Senate, there is virtually no chance the articles will advance to a floor vote, let alone secure the 2/3 Senate majority required for conviction and removal. But it signals how escalated this situation has become. So how has Attorney General Bondi responded to all of this? Bondi has staunchly defended the Justice Department's handling of the files, accusing Democrats of stoking controversy over the documents to divert attention from President Trump's accomplishments in office. During her testimony last month, Bondi said more than 500 attorneys and reviewers spent thousands of hours painstakingly reviewing millions of pages to comply with Congress's law. We've released more than 3 million pages, including 180,000 images, all to the public, while doing our very best in the time frame allotted by the legislation to protect victims. Administration officials have said lawyers worked as quickly as possible to properly review, redact, and release millions of documents required under the law. But here's the key tension. Much of the sharpest backlash against Bondi has originated from within the president's own party, where conservative lawmakers and supporters have expressed frustration over a perceived lack of transparency and the absence of new revelations despite the massive document release. The MAGA base expected bombshells. Instead, they got redactions and excuses. And now they're demanding answers from their own attorney general. If you're following this story closely and want more analysis on what happens next with the Epstein files, the subpoena, and the political fallout, consider subscribing to this channel. We break down complex political stories like this every week without spin, so you can understand what's actually happening. Now, let's talk about where this goes next. The Epstein investigation isn't just about Attorney General Bondi. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick agreed to an interview with the panel. Lutnick was among the slew of powerful people revealed to have been in communication with Epstein after the Justice Department made public its trove of records. While Lutnick had said he cut off contact with Epstein in 2005, documents showed they communicated in the years after Epstein's 2008 guilty plea and before his death in 2019. On Tuesday, Comer sent letters to 7 other individuals with ties to Epstein, including billionaire Bill Gates and former White House counsel Catherine Rumler, requesting transcribed interviews in the coming months. Former U.S. President Bill Clinton and his wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, recently appeared separately for closed-door depositions before the committee, addressing Bill Clinton's long-standing connections to Epstein more than 2 decades ago. Lawmakers have also questioned who approved the transfer of Epstein's co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell to a minimum security prison in Texas days after she met with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Last month, Bondi told the House Judiciary Committee that she did not personally approve the transfer. Maxwell is seeking clemency from Trump. There are a lot of threads here, and Congress is pulling on all of them. There is no date yet for Bondi's testimony, but the subpoena has been issued. The pressure is real, and the committee wants answers. Bondi will be the highest-ranking sitting official to appear before the panel. The questions she'll face are clear. Why were documents withheld? Why were survivor identities exposed while powerful names were protected? Who made those decisions? And what else is missing? The department acknowledged Wednesday that tens of thousands of Epstein files are offline as it deals with redaction and privacy issues that it hopes to have addressed by the end of the week. NPR's investigation previously found 53 pages that appeared to be missing from the public database. Even after new documents were published, there are still 37 pages of records missing, including notes from the interviews, a law enforcement report, and license records. The full picture still isn't clear. And that's exactly why lawmakers from both parties are refusing to let this go. What makes this situation so unusual is the bipartisan nature of the criticism. Normally, cabinet officials are protected by their party. When the opposition attacks, the ruling party circles the wagons. But in this case, some of the most aggressive criticism has come from conservative Republicans. The Epstein files remain a political headache for the Trump administration more than a year after Bondi sparked backlash by handing out binders of documents with no new revelations to conservative influencers at the White House. Then, after a months-long review, the Justice Department in July said it had concluded that no Epstein client list existed and there was no reason to make additional files public. That set off a furor that prompted Congress to pass legislation demanding that the Justice Department release the files. The promise of full transparency was made. And many people, especially in the president's own base, feel that promise has not been kept. Polling suggests Bondi is one of the least popular Trump cabinet officials. Representative Stephen Lynch, a senior Oversight Committee member, said Kristi Noem was dragging him down, and I think Pam Bondi is too, on the Epstein thing. The political calculus here is complicated. The administration can't ignore its own base demanding transparency. But full transparency might expose uncomfortable truths about powerful people, including, potentially, the president himself. Here's what we know for certain. A Republican-led committee voted with bipartisan support to subpoena the Republican Attorney General of the United States. Documents were withheld. Some have been released after media investigations exposed their absence. Others remain missing. Survivors had their identities exposed. Powerful individuals had theirs protected. And articles of impeachment, while unlikely to succeed, have been filed. This story isn't over. Whether Bondi testifies, what she says, and what's still being hidden, all of that will determine what happens next. For survivors who have waited decades for accountability, the question is simple. Will the powerful finally be held responsible? Or will this be another chapter in what Nancy Mace called one of the greatest cover-ups in American history? Only time, and perhaps the subpoenaed testimony of Attorney General Pam Bondi, will tell. That's all for today. If you want to stay updated on this story and others like it, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching.